correction. It's cisgender, not biological. So let's just be able to say cisgender women. We should normalize cisgender. That's easy enough for us to do.
I will only say that when I say that, I'm saying it's the way they use that term. I don't use that term, but they say that's what they want, and then it's not good enough in the end.
Yeah.
And I do know it's a minority, and all I have to say, all I am saying is that if and when there is a trans athlete, can we stand with them? And can we see and tie our own liberation together and our own defense against this bigotry together? And me as a feminist, me as a cisgender woman, I believe that my own liberation, my fight against that misogyny that John's talking about, if someone were to call me a man, say, I'm not a man, but also I stand with trans people, I stand with trans athletes. And I hope that we will see that eventually one day, even for those 7 people, I do think it matters.
Here.
Oh, I suppose so.
I don't know why I'm here. Go. Hello, welcome to the TransPositions, everybody. It's Thursday night. It's 8 p.m. Eastern, and yeah, we are here to bring you the TransPositions news. So hang on to your seats. We don't have a Carly tonight. We do have a Phoebe tonight who might be giving you a seizure right now. Goodness. I'm gonna have a
I was just looking. I'm like, what in the world?
Not look directly at your screen right now. Oh, there's your pretty. Lean forward a little bit so they can see your pretty face. The ego is here, and she doesn't have anything to say.
Oh, indeed.
Welcome. This is your first time here.
StreamYard. I've been on StreamYard hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times.
Yeah, on StreamYard, but not on the TransPositions.
I don't even know why I'm here. Why am I here?
Because of...
we need the weasel to show us how to dance.
Really? Why am I here? Help!
You're trapped in a box.
She's in a basement, I can tell.
No, it's the back rooms. I mean, technically, I'm in a basement too, but details.
Yeah. I spent the first couple of years of my my main show on the in the basement, so no worries there. Yeah, why are you here, Phoebe?
Bloody hell! How the hell do I know? I was just told by you turn up tomorrow night.
I told you to bring something too. Did you bring it?
Wait here.
While she's doing that, how has your week been, Miss Ember?
Pretty decent. Today, in fact, is my 6 months on HRT, and I feel fucking fantastic.
Yay! It's awesome. Half a year.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a milestone. Yeah. And as always, you got something lovely that pops on today for our live performance. But you know, Ember doesn't just appear to us live here. We'll have some good news here coming up later on in the show. So don't go anywhere if that's the segment you're looking for, because that's the best one. All right.
You're about to get demonetized.
Yay!
Oh my! Well, we have to get monetized first. So if all you folks out there that aren't subscribed to the channel right now would just go ahead and do that, that'd be great.
I told her to bring a sword, and she's like, "Yes, excellent." It was funny because I was we're getting big news. We're getting Elena McLaughlin's going to come on to talk Elite Trans Sports with Carly here one of these nights next month. We haven't pinned down an exact date, but I'm super excited about that. But she's got a documentary coming on, and she's holding this sword on the front of it, like sitting in a throne holding a sword. And I said, "Did you bring your own sword?" And she's like, "Yeah." So I'm like, I wonder if all trans girls have a sword, because I have a sword, but it's in storage right now.
I do not have a sword.
Is it live?
Yes, we are live.
We are in fact live. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
I'll be the Red Queen.
I tell you this.
Off with his head!
Oh God!
I say this.
Oh no!
The
Oh my
following
God!
stream will contain no legal or financial advice from myself. I am not in a position to give individualized legal or financial advice. No fiduciary or attorney-client privilege is created by this stream.
Yeah, there's the disclaimer. We need to just put that on the beginning of every episode.
I cannot create a fiduciary duty with you through YouTube or whatever medium you are watching this through. I do not create an attorney-client relationship with you for the same reason. It's stupid to do so.
Well, I don't know if some of the stuff that happened in the last couple of weeks has been overshadowed by the Olympics and by all the, especially if you're interested in associated with trans people. Not that anybody in the Olympics was doing anything was trans, but same.
There's that.
Same flavor, different day. But regardless, this got kind of overshadowed while that was going on, and this was kind of sad to read. Black transgender Air Force veteran Vanity Williams shot to death in Houston. So, yeah, people always say, oh, where are trans people being killed at, and things like that. It's like, everywhere? Everywhere and anywhere. Vanity Williams, a 34-year-old black transgender woman who had recently started nursing school, was shot to death on August 3rd in the lobby of her apartment building in Houston. Williams' friends are remembering her fondly, and they say that they don't know why anyone would want to kill her. But Tristan Sanders, a man who police say was known to Williams, was arrested a week later and charged with murder. She was found in the lobby suffering from multiple gunshot wounds. Kind of makes you scared to go out. I don't know. I'm trying not to be like a doomer about it, But
yeah, that's one of the reasons there's such a discourse about whether trans people should disclose or not. Because on the one hand, if you don't tell people, then if they find out, they have that whole trans panic thing. But on the other hand, if you do tell people, they may just murder you anyway.
Yeah, that's just saying. Yeah, if you want, it's saying whether you want them to do whether you want to risk trans panic now or later. Yeah, Williams had entered.
Well, that's a cheery way to begin. What a wonderful, cheery start.
Well, absolutely, we're all about the bright side over here.
We have to work our way up to the good news. We don't usually do a lot of this stuff, but
the bright side, blah blah blah.
She was in the Air Force. She was an Air Force veteran who had dedicated to uplifting the black community and women. She created and made a safe space for everybody. So to think that someone would want to hurt her and have a justified reason is something I cannot fathom, her friend Hope Giselle told Houston's ABC affiliate. Williams had a great sense of humor and had a really dope personality outside of just being able to have a really educated conversation and speak truth to power, and what it means to be a woman, what it means to be a woman of color, Giselle added. So, yeah, just remembering her fondly. This Sanders guy, SWAT arrested him in Houston. Houston police and other law enforcement agencies that were involved wouldn't provide information on the relationship with Williams, but her friends told the ABC station they knew each other from across social media. Vanity's friends echoed a quote that she often said, "I don't fear death, I fear injustice." That's a feel. Definitely.
Good quote.
Next up, yeah. See if I can find something more upbeat for Phoebe since she just came here to complain.
Me complain? No.
Well, it doesn't always end that way. Like, not to step on my own toes later, but one of our good news stories has to do with some good that's come out of the legacy of one of the Club Q victims from a couple of years ago.
Yeah. So when we got this up here, this is some good news. I thought this was funny. Ember brought this to our attention. This law was used to keep trans people off the ballot. Now it's being used against a cis Republican. He didn't disclose.
Hilarious.
he didn't disclose a name change in a state with a strange law about just that. Is it Florida? No, it's not Florida this time.
Ohio.
It's Ohio.
Yeah, they've been so anti-trans lately. They passed a law saying that if you've had a legal name change in the past 5 years, you have to disclose that on your ballot forms or you're ineligible to run. But the ballot registration forms do not have a place for you to put that information. So you have to disclose it, but you cannot disclose it. The reason being, trans people tend to change their names more often, so it effectively keeps anybody who's been trans less than 5 years from running for office. And it's worked. 2 out of the 3 candidates who fell under that category got disqualified from running this year because of that stupid thing. But turnabout's fair play, this particular Republican dude also changed his name within the past 5 years. And
for shame.
Tex Fisher. Tex was not his biological name.
Yeah.
Do you have a biological name? I thought that was Homo sapien.
So, Tex, he changed his name to Tex, but he lives in Ohio. Oh, come on.
He added a second middle name that's, I forget exactly what it is, but so that he could say that going short for Tex is actually just a nickname or some shit.
It's the Austin.
It's like Texard or something like it's
Texford. Texford. Here it is.
Something like that.
Austin James Texford Fisher.
Texford. That's it.
Yeah.
So here's the problem. You may be laughing at this. The problem is it now makes the law harder to challenge.
Now that it's been implemented as a
now
regulation.
It's been applied equally across groups. It is now harder to challenge because you can now point it to this person who is not a trans person having been caught by the law and disqualified in the same manner. It is now a harder law as a result to challenge.
Yeah, well, that's the. I feel like they bum rush the ballot boxes with all these anti-trans bills in the last few election years, trying to get that stuff pushed into the Supreme Court while we have stacked 6 justices stacked in the Supreme Court right now. I don't know if we need more justices or we just need to put on term limits, but something's got to give.
Well, while we have a panel, this is the panel show portion, what do people think about the possibility of stacking the Supreme Court? Like, Biden hasn't done it.
Shenanigans.
It's true, and a lot of people have said if Biden does expand the court, then the next Republican will just do the same, and it'll lead to an arms race, insanity, etc. But the thing of it is, another Republican president won't give a fuck that Biden didn't do it. They'll do it anyway.
So
that's one argument, and historically, it's happened. I mean, Dakota was supposed to come in not as North Dakota and South Dakota, but as Dakota. And the reason it was 2 states was because that gave 2 more senators to, I believe it was the Republican Party that was in control. And what did they do? Expanded the Supreme Court.
Here's the thing. The Supreme Court is not fixed at 9 by the Constitution.
Right.
I'll get that out of the way to begin with. There is legislation which states the number of justices that are on the court. The Supreme Court has in the past had legislation to shrink the size of the court and expand the size of the court. So I think it was Andrew Johnson, after he got impeached and was only retained office by 1 vote, they passed a law to stop him from being able to nominate anybody to the Supreme Court. So when a justice died or retired, the seat just disappeared.
Mm-hmm. That seems like a fun way to do things.
Shenanigans beget shenanigans. Shenaniganery gets shenaniganery. So, does anybody remember Harriet Myers?
Yes.
Anyone else?
The name sounds familiar, but I am bad with famous people.
So, Stephanie, tell me who Harriet Myers is.
I might be misremembering, but I believe she was she wasn't nominated, I don't believe.
She was nominated.
Oh, she was? Okay.
But she was then withdrawn. Yeah. So, Harriet Myers was the family attorney for the George W. Bush family, and he decided this very nice woman will get a nice seat on the Supreme Court. People went round the bend and went, no, thank you. But if we'd had Harriet Myers, we'd have a vacancy now. Because she was... But instead, we got Samuel Alito.
Yay!
Yeah.
So, I say this to people. Be careful what you wish for. You might just get it.
Well, the way I look at it, and you may disagree, you probably do, is that up until a certain point, there was one justice per circuit.
Still is.
No, there isn't. There are 13 circuits and 9 justices.
But there are 11 circuits and the federal district.
Right, okay.
I know that because I've got a map next to me.
11 and 12. I thought it was 13, but anyway.
So
there should be 12 justices.
One each. 10, 11 rotate amongst the rest of them. And 12, which is the federal, is the Chief Justice.
Right. My point is, though, there didn't used to be as many. There used to be one justice per circuit. And they didn't share them. They didn't rotate. There was a time in history when, and it was back, I believe, in the 20s, when there were 9 districts. And each justice had a district. So there's an argument for expanding the court just to cover the workload.
The problem with the Supreme Court is that it has the right to select its own cases.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
So, in France, the court cannot select its own cases. It has to take the case.
They have freedom fries.
It has to rule and take the case. It can't just be one and done in France. Whereas you can deny cert for pretty much any reason you like. Getting a case before the Supreme Court can be as lucky as winning the lottery. Because you have to be able to demonstrate that the case is of public importance, the case is of a nature that would settle a public policy matter, or has created a circuit split, or is likely to be an issue of public interest. Don't get me started on that, but that is one.
Yeah, but you need 4 votes. Granting cert requires 4 votes, right?
No, not really. Granting cert just means that you have people agree with you. You can grant cert per curiam.
I don't know. You're the lawyer. I'm just the American historian and sailmaker. Well, I thought it required the assent of 4 votes to hear the case.
How to grant cert.
Bet y'all didn't expect constitutional law tonight.
Well, you brought it up, Ember, for God's sake.
Well, I did have something else I was pulling up here. This was something I found on ESPN, of all places, that came out recently. Thought was pretty interesting. It's charting transgender athlete legislation. Tennessee has one law that restricts trans girls and boys grade 5 through 12, another law that restricts transgender women but not men at a college level. So these are different, how heavy-handed different states are with their trans athlete legislation. The ones that are darkest, as you can see, you got the Connect 3 right here: Missouri, Tennessee, and Alabama. Looking pretty damn toxic. You got Texas and South Carolina. Yeah. So.
You're darker than Florida.
Yeah,
you're
darker than
doing
Florida,
shitty things.
You should look inside once you're darker than Florida. Here's the chronology of this from 2020, though. Here's how it started, with just Idaho. 2021. It just kept going from there. Landslide every election.
Was gonna ask how old is that map, because I know New Hampshire passed legislation, and the legislation has been blocked by the courts.
Yeah, I think
we covered that story last week.
It has to be currently enforced in the state to be read, and then the.
Oh, this is through August 17th, 2023. Yeah, that's the little asterisk.
All right, so yeah, and I believe New Hampshire's law was passed after that, because that case just got decided, or just got the injunction was just granted.
Yeah, it's still pending. The court is still gonna hear it, but
yeah.
And then there's a bunch of other things that are pending
it won't
for
be
different
enforced
reasons.
for the 20. Right, it won't be enforced for the. My understanding, anyway, it won't be enforced for the 24-25 school year. But if the injunction gets lifted, if the case gets heard before the end of the school year, those two girls are SOL. If they don't prevail in court.
Those are the ones that
it sucks.
Haya Rychak was all tweeting about, posting their face all over
tweets
Twitter.
About everything.
Is there anyone that she doesn't?
Well,
you know,
when it's children, you think she'd be like, oh, you know what? I'm not going to show these children's photos.
She advocated for bombing a children's hospital. That woman has no scruples.
Yeah, and she wants to say she wants to protect children, and children's hospitals get bomb threats, and she thinks it's a good thing. Schools get bomb threats, and she thinks it's a good thing. We do have some trans people and their family filing a lawsuit against South Carolina's gender-affirming care ban. So that's good. That's a move in the right direction, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a step in the right direction. Transgender South Carolinians and their families are suing the state of California to block enforcement of a ban on gender-affirming health care. What's that?
It's South Carolinians.
What did I say? South Carolinians?
Yes, it's South Carolinians.
Oh. Well. South Carolinians. My apologies to any Carolinians, either south or north, that heard me mispronounce.
What Carolina folk refer to themselves as? Like, you know, in there's the Sooners and the Cornhuskers and whatever the hell else. Do the Carolinas have a name for themselves like that?
They do, but I can't remember what it is. I know it's the Palmetto State.
Palmetto? Mm-hmm. Which is a cool bug that most people hate, but I think it's really cool.
Well, it's the state flag is really nice. It's a palm tree with a crescent moon. So it's quite cool.
Oh, it's the Islamic Republic of South Carolina.
Well, I don't think they look at it quite that way. It's kind of there's a Bible on every corner in the state capital of Columbia.
Well, you know, the Quran affirms the Bible, so they're not incompatible.
No.
Right. So they are represented by by attorneys from the ACLU in South Carolina and Celindy Gay. House Bill 4624 signed into law by Governor Henry McMaster on May 21st. Prohibits doctors from providing potentially life-saving care to transgender youth as well as many transgender adults. The law restricts access to gender transition procedures, including evidence-based treatments like puberty-delaying medication and hormone therapy that are recommended for treatment of gender dysphoria by leading medical associations. Okay, we got the lawsuit here. So I can't believe that this is the world we live in. It's like so bizarre to me. And these are the party of small government, folks. The people who want the government controlling what healthcare you can get.
Mm-hmm. They want to be in everyone's underpants. They're small enough to fit in your bathroom.
Yeah.
That story from the ACLU dropped today, which is, golly gee.
Breaking news, folks.
Breaking news from the TransPositions.
We actually do that a lot, surprisingly so, considering we're a weekly show. Like, everybody else usually has a huge head start on us, and yet we get stuff out, days before the pro streamers who, like, their whole thing is trans news all day, every day.
If I had the time to do trans news all day, every day, I sure as heck would. But yeah, right now, here I am.
Support us on Patreon, folks, because, between all of us, with enough support, I know it'd take a shit ton of support, more than people we have here now, but we could man a desk and just run streams with all the breaking news and analysis and all that kind of shit. It'd be fantastic. It's out of reach right now. But if you share this channel, help spread the woke mind virus, we can get there.
We may get there. And we actually have we've had TransPositions panel meetings where we've discussed doing a lot of different types of shows, but we want to get this one off the ground first. And we have a lot to look forward to if we can manage that. So stick around if you're not subscribed. If it's your first time here, hit the subscribe and hit that bell, because they won't tell you when we're live if you don't. Unless you happen to see it, you'll never even know until it's over. So hit the bell. If you are new and if you're trans, I would you please leave a comment down below and tell us how you found us. I'd like to know. So. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
That'd be helpful.
And then
you can support us individually and collectively and in every other way. But we'd love to see the channel grow. It's had pretty darn good growth in the 7 months that we've been doing this. But it takes a bit of digging to put these things together every week. And we appreciate it if you appreciate us.
Yeah, I think this is show number 22.
22
or 23. I'd have to look it up to be sure.
And then we had, between that, we also had some different one-on-one interviews, and we had our 200 sub celebration, which, like, a week and a half later, we were at 300. So we just keep on growing. So we really appreciate all the love. The last story I have for us today, I'm not going to dwell on it too much, but I did want to touch on it because it was brought to my attention, is this Trump judge rules dead naming trans students teaches tolerance in bizarre opinion.
A bizarre opinion from a Trump judge?
Yeah.
Say it ain't so.
It builds bullying builds character. It's a bring bullying back campaign, I guess. Judge Pamela A. Barker. Phoebe, tell us a little bit about her.
Where should I start?
She was born in Columbus, Ohio,
Go for the throat,
under a
Phoebe.
Leo sign.
Let's see. As long-term substitute teacher of... She was a substitute teacher, too? Hold on here.
Nice.
I hate this is the one thing I don't like about Aaron in the Morning's blog is that I don't have any way to change the background color, and it's like fiercely bright. Pamela A. Baker has ruled that a teacher's lawsuit against her school can proceed to trial after she was fired for refusing to use 2 transgender students' preferred names and pronouns. The teacher, Vivian Girardi, argued that her Pentecostal religious beliefs prohibited her from using a student's new name if she believed it was related to the student's transition. It's not your business, Miss Girardi. What's Vivian?
Hey, fun fact: the Bible doesn't say a damn thing about using other people's names and pronouns. It's not actually inextricably linked to a person's religious beliefs in any way, shape, or form.
So here's
Bruce
the thing.
does. She wrote it in the margins. That's the way it works.
So here's the thing people fail to forget about religion. Whether you like or not what I'm about to say, I don't really care. Your religion is your choice. Full stop. How do I know your religion is your choice? Because there's about 17,000 of them out there, and every person claims theirs is the true religion, and you have people converting from one religion to another, people leaving religions, people declaring no religion at all, people declaring multiple religions. Your religion is a choice, and using your choices to justify another choice is another choice you're making. You are choosing, you are not compelled to be a wanker.
Well,
Amen.
Where do you put the line with something like that? Where is it that if you can say my religion tells me
if you are using a religion as a crutch to be a wanker, you are choosing to be a wanker because you are choosing to blind yourself to what your religion says because you have chosen that religion, and that religion is guiding you, and it is your choice to go and implement it.
Yeah, I prefer the Canadian douche canoe to wanker, but I'll go with wanker. That's fine. My religion tells me to be a douche canoe, so I'm going to be a douche canoe, and you can't being suppressed. Come on.
So here's the other thing to remember: if your religion goes and tells you to murder somebody, and you go and do it, you don't get a free pass in a court. This is no different. Just because it's on a different scale and with a different action, you do not get to have the protection from the law just because you go, my religion allows me to be a wanker.
Or douche canoe.
Yeah, because, we all know the Bible commands you to get stoned, right? Like, if you do certain things, like, a man can lay with another man as long as he gets stoned first.
That's why weed is not complained about.
Yeah. I will say that every man I've laid with, there's been weed involved. I don't know if there's a connection there, but...
The Bible commands you that you shall be stoned. Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah, so...
Book of Profits. How much did you pay in tax on those profits? That's the real question.
So the idea that you have a legal right to be a bigot towards a minority group is just... The
idea that you have a legal right to be a bigot towards a minority group and then avail yourself of the protection of the law is complete horse shit.
Yeah. And then say it's God's divine wisdom.
You can be a bigot as much as you want. You just cannot avail yourself of the protections of the law to do so.
Right. And if you have a government job, you can't discriminate. That's why I remember what was her name? The woman who refused to sign the marriage certificate for the gay couple.
In West Virginia, yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember what her name was.
Yeah, no one remembers her name, but they remember her not doing her job.
And she was like 3 times divorced and crap. So, yeah. But if you can't do your job because of your religion, then don't do that job. It's not a job for you. It's like a pork farmer, a Muslim pork farmer, right? It's like.
So for all of you out there that may be slightly to the right, there'll be many of you, but if there are, and you're a libertarian, I give you this piece of advice. You do not get to interact with the government by choice. Therefore, the government are the one entity that are prohibited from discriminating. And as a teacher employed by the government, you are effectively an agent of the government. So you do not get to discriminate when you are doing your government work. Because there's no choice involved in that. It's all compulsion. Children are compelled to be in that classroom by government mandate.
Right. And then yet they still have, when they say the Pledge of Allegiance, they still say under God.
Pledge of Allegiance is voluntary.
You know. The Pledge of Allegiance is voluntary. Have you ever been in an American elementary school classroom and been the
Pledge of Allegiance is voluntary.
And been the kid who sat down during the Pledge of Allegiance?
Doesn't matter. Pledge of Allegiance is voluntary. Court says
officially.
So. Barnett versus West Virginia. Pledge of Allegiance is voluntary. Full stop.
Right, well, what you say was voluntary. I might disagree.
No, it is voluntary. The law says it is voluntary. The Supreme Court says it is voluntary.
You think that the legal court is the only court that matters when you get.
Here's the thing:
when you have your peers,
people being arseholes. Arseholes will exist.
Yeah, but it's not individual people.
Have you driven down an interstate?
No,
have you driven down an interstate?
It's not individual people. It's a concerted effort of multiple religious people oppressing other people in their classrooms because they're not religious if they don't do this. Say the Pledge of Allegiance.
The school should be being sued for failure to protect the religious freedom of those people to not participate in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I don't think that the school is enforcing that they have to participate in it. I think the fear of their peers.
If the school is allowing discrimination based on the religion of the individual not to participate in the Pledge of Allegiance, then the school is engaged in religious discrimination.
Okay, go tell them that. Like all of them.
Oh, I did when I was in high school because I never stood up for the Pledge of Allegiance. It was in the
I'm talking about elementary school. Small children are afraid to, because their cohort and all the authority figures around them are doing a thing. It's social coercion, or it's legal, but if they're going to put God in it, then it shouldn't be government. It shouldn't be set in government as part of government. What did you say, Steph? I'm sorry.
It wasn't in it until the 50s.
Yeah. Till
Eisenhower inserted God into a lot of things. Eisenhower put the motto "In God We Trust" into law. He put God on the money. It wasn't there beforehand.
Yeah, but he liberated France.
Yeah, he was also an infidelious wanker and couldn't get over the fact that the Augusta National Golf Course Committee wouldn't remove a tree for him.
They also put it on our money too. That's probably the hardest blow of the whole thing is that we shouldn't have to carry that crap around with us, but it's not my religion. I agree with everybody's right to practice their religion. I just don't like it being thrust into government buildings.
Here's the question: Do you agree with everyone's right to practice their religion, no matter how they see fit, in the privacy of their own home?
Yes, 100%.
Does that include black magic?
Hell yeah. As long as there's no violations of any laws within the sovereignty of the region that they're in, including animal sacrifice.
What about human sacrifice?
Human sacrifice.
Yeah, I was going to say, what about the Aztecs?
That's just murder, right?
No, it's a religious practice.
Well, it was. So this actually happened in Canada. There was this
guy
named this guy named John Fiddler, who was like a medicine man, right? And he would exorcise wendigos out of people, and he'd done it a whole bunch and ended up some of them end up dying. They end up dying when they get exorcised. That's how you exorcise a wendigo. So then the Canadian Mounted Police went in and decided that it was not part of his religious rights to, or any of the people involved, because their families would have him come in and do these rites that end up with a dead family member, right? And yeah, and they decided that it was not okay. That was in Canada, though. What do you got in the UK? Hit me.
Well, they called it the torso in the Thames case. They found the torso of a 10-year-old boy floating in the Thames with its head, arms, and legs missing because of a black magic ritual.
Yeah. And
that's freedom of religion right there.
That was freedom of religion. Wow.
So there is actually precedent about these sorts of matters. There's a thing in constitutional law called the ministerial exception, which is what people try to invoke when they say, because of my religion. The thing about it, though, is that only applies to bona fide religious organizations. Like if a church discriminates based on race, this is a whites-only church, that's a ministerial exception. Or if a pastor discriminates for whatever fucking reason, if he does so in the domain of being a pastor, ministerial exception. The courts just throw it out. They go, church and state separation, not our problem. Get it out of here. And
also why you have the minister penitent confidentiality rule as well.
Could be. I'm not familiar with how that interacts with the ministerial exception offhand.
So
but it works the other way around.
The government saying that in the same way that you have attorney-client privilege, and you don't go and violate that, for the same reasons that the government doesn't intrude on religion, you don't go and intrude into someone's conversations with their minister.
Sure. As a minister, I'm familiar with the fact that they're privileged conversations. I'm not familiar with how it interacts with the ministerial exception as a discrete chunk of law. But it does work the other way around, too. You can't claim religious exception for something that's prohibited by law when you're in an expressly government context. Just like if it's a religious setting, the case gets thrown out. If you're in a government setting, invoking religious defense will not fly.
So, for example, army chaplains. They are the classic example. Army chaplains cannot claim exemptions based on their religion when they are performing their duties in the army.
Yes, precisely. At least that's how it's supposed to work.
The fact that the army has chaplains to begin with is a problem, but
yeah.
Do they have chaplains for all religions though? Somebody represent the Wiccans out there?
Yeah, actually. Well, I don't know about the Army, but in the Navy, technically, when I was in, they had it divided up in Catholic and Protestant. If you were anything not Catholic, you were a Protestant. If you were Wiccan, that's Protestant. If you're Jewish, that's Protestant. If you're Muslim, congrats, you're a Protestant now. But there were Wiccan service members, and if there was a Wiccan chaplain around, then they would get, preferential association. Similar thing with anything else really, but it's only, again, when I was in, which is more than 20 years ago, it was only Christians generally, Jews, and Wiccans who got the special service periods and shit, and everybody else was just on their own. If you're Hindu, you can have the meditation room for an hour, but that's all you get,
So, I guess the Wiccans probably got the Sabbaths off, the 8 Sabbaths of the year, right?
No, you don't get days off in the military.
Oh, even religious days?
You're a Christian.
No, the Army can't be stopping a war because, Christmas happens. Not that actually happened in World War I.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I read an endearing story about that.
Yeah, like if you can get a truce, the other side agrees to take Christmas off, like happened in World War I, that's fine. But you can't be like in the middle of invading Afghanistan and be like, well, guys, it's 25
to 11. It's 25 to midnight on the 25th, on the 24th day of December. We've got to stop in 25 minutes. It just don't work like that.
Yeah. We're, just tell the Taliban guys we're taking off. We're taking a long weekend. We'll be back on Tuesday.
Jesus' birthday. We back tomorrow.
Let's go party.
There's the famous taking over Trenton, New Jersey, during the Revolutionary War. The Americans decided, hey, Christmas would be a great time, and
He's talking about
celebrating Christmas.
Didn't George Washington famously on Christmas?
That's what I'm referring to. They captured Trenton.
What
hey.
Yeah, what an idea.
Way. Let's go. Let's visit Trenton.
All right, we're probably about to lose Ember because she has to sleep for her early shift.
Sleep is for the weak, but yes.
Sleep is for the wicked.
That too. I like that one better. Yes. Be gay, do crimes.
Yay.
Don't get caught.
Gays.
So, do you got any final thoughts on any of the things we've discussed tonight in the open panel?
People be crazy. A lot of people have some serious balls to try some of the bullshit they're trying, but I mean, the world is kind of fucked up right now. Where Biden has been like a caretaker president. He has done some good things, but he hasn't reversed a lot of Trump's craziness, and there's still a lot of Trump craziness out there. So, who knows what the fuck's gonna happen with anything? What are laws for?
What even is a courtroom?
For real. How is a courtroom? Yeah. No one ever asks.
Yeah. All right. Steph will be back with us for the sports segment. Phoebe, are you sticking around and hanging out for sports after Ember's half an hour here that we're pulling up?
I have no idea.
Okay. Yeah,
I hope you do.
You are. I'm contracting.
I'm going to talk about. We're going to talk about Haley Davidson, who is on her way to a potential slot on the
LPGA,
Ladies Golf Pros,
the Ladies Professional Golf Association Tour.
That's the one. Yeah, if I could only get it out of. Speaking of sleep deprived. And the LPGA's gender policy and how that all fits in and how people are losing their mind about it. It's a story from covered today by Bunkered.
Leave some mystery.
.co.uk.
Leave some mystery so people stick around.
Yeah, mystery. Well, I'm just saying we've got a few things to cover, and hopefully Phoebe will be with us because not only is she a tremendous attorney, but she's a huge sports fan. And since we don't
I've heard that rumor.
We don't have Carly around.
It's I am not a sports fan, so it gives somebody else that
how about that local sports team wherever you are? Local sports team.
How about them? Well, this is a safe sport. I'm participating in an extremely safe sport, as you will observe.
Yeah, nothing safer than getting dumped into the ocean.
Nothing safer than having the boat tip over.
That's right.
And falling overboard. Wear your PFDs, kids.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
So,
well,
yeah, it's been good to catch you, Phoebe, and next time we're on a stream together.
Yes.
Lightsabers.
Oh my God.
Ooh. Sword time.
I think the sword's more effective, to be honest.
I don't know. I mean, this one is carbon steel, but this one is photons.
I thought lightsabers were plasma.
Could be that too. I mean,
I can do this where I am. I can't do this back in England.
Yeah, you can have a sword waving around in England, you're going to end up getting
blade
beat with
longer than 4 inches.
getting
It's
beat
5
by the
years in prison.
bobbies.
Bree, I
Blade
think
longer than 4 inches. Therefore, I'll go to prison.
right.
Oh.
I think trans girl sword fighting could be the new #1 content on YouTube.
Yeah.
As we get quickly banned and thrown in prison for killing people.
I guess we'll have to use like the big foam LARPer swords.
Let's don't do that. We want, folks, we won't be featuring this on the channel.
Yeah. That's not going to be expected here.
I mean, you know, we are kind of content whores, but not that huge as far as content whores. By the way, whoever just subscribed to the channel, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bring more.
We're getting super close to 350, everybody. Keep it coming.
Yep. Everyone invite 3 friends.
3 friends.
Yeah.
Let's make this an MLM.
It's when you invite 3 fiends, you've got to be careful.
There's 3 fiends on my screens.
The sign of the cross does not work on any of us.
That does not create a fiduciary relationship. That does not create an attorney-client privilege.
Just reiterating.
Yes. I'm not giving out financial or legal advice on this, Streamy. I want to keep my CFPB license. I want to keep my SEC license. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, Phoebe may or may not be back with us when sports rolls back around, but I'll be back with you in just a moment. I'll just be taking like 5-10 minutes of your time. So I'll see you in just a moment. Thank you so much for sticking around for more from the TransPositions. We've got a lot more show to come for you, so don't go anywhere. I just want to take a couple minutes of your time just to bring up something I'd mentioned earlier in the show that a lot of things got overshadowed by all the Olympics drama here lately, and that's completely true. And one of those things was this this trans queen right here. Jules LeBron with the very demure trend about makeup and hairstyle and how to dress yourself to look a role for an office scene and things like that. So it's just a beautiful young trans woman. She went viral doing this. Let me see. I got her videos here. Yeah, here we go. Yeah. So she's adorable, right? And she's on TikTok. She does all these cute videos. She does product reviews. But something awesome happened. Because this trend went so viral and she's getting millions of views on her videos now. Millions, like 1.5 million, 49.5 million, 9.9 million, 10 million. She's getting millions of views on her videos now. She was able to finance her transition, which is amazing. The demure trend went so viral, the TikToker behind the audio can now pay for her transition. Congratulations, beauty influence Jules LeBron, for securing your bag, girl. The TikToker, who has recently gone viral for her use and spreading of the word, the demure trend, has now updated all of her followers with some very good news. And that's that video we just watched. Yeah, and I'm looking for the famous one, or the one where she actually says the line. Say the line. Let's see, is this it? I'm not sure. I don't think that was the one I was looking for. We'll find it. But yeah, she did. She got huge. 2.5 million likes and 23 million views at the time of that rating. It's gone up more since then, as we just looked. It's just blown up. But she was able to finance her transition. I thought that was something definitely worth celebrating. Because right now, and I'm sure she gets her haters too, but right now having positive trans influencers in the spotlight. I know influencers gross pop culture trends and whatnot, but that aside, having positive people that we can look to in society and say, see, not all trans people are what the cringy right-wing folks are trying to tell you that we are. We're some good and decent people for the most part. Every group will have icky people, but we are not a group of problematic people. There are kind and friendly and good, inspirational people in the trans communities around the world that we can look to and say, hey, drop the groomer narrative. We're just trying to live our lives and be decent. And this really, especially coming on the wake of the Chris Tyson nonsense, I'm happy to have a positive role model rear her head. So thank you just for joining me for that quick little segment here. She's even got so big she's got her own Wikipedia page now. So you go, girl, you go. All right. Thank you so much for joining me. We will be right back with some more Ember for you. So if you're ready for some good news, it's coming right up. From the TransPositions, I've been Bree McKeown.
Tonight, wins for women. Good news, everyone! Tonight, wins for women. A trans boy band in the works? So many beautiful trans people and more. Good news starts right now. First up, Tickle versus Giggle. From Lucy Martinez, the Australian federal court has ruled in favor of transgender woman Roxanne Tickle, finding that she was indirectly discriminated against by the social media platform Giggle for Girls. The decision reaffirms transgender women's right to be free from discrimination according to Australian law. Roxanne Tickle sued the social media platform, Giggle for Girls, after being excluded from the women-only app, arguing that this exclusion constitutes unlawful discrimination based on gender identity, while the app's founder, Stell Grover, transphobically disputed her status as a woman. Justice Robert Bromwich said, quote, "The applicant sued the respondents, Giggle for Girls and Sally Grover, alleging unlawful gender identity discrimination contrary to Section 22 of the Sex Discrimination Act. It is not in dispute that Roxanne was prevented from using a mobile phone application known as the Giggle app. The issue was whether it is unlawful discrimination." Sal Grover did not accept the legitimacy of cisgender or transgender, although both terms are useful for discussing relevant facts. The court recognized Tickle as a woman whose female sex is officially recognized by Queensland. The judge additionally noted that gender identity does fall within the scope of the protected statuses under Section 26 of the Sex Discrimination Act. He said, quote, "I found that Ms. Tickle's claim of direct gender identity discrimination falls short, but her claim of indirect gender identity discrimination succeeds. The direct claim failed because it couldn't be proven that Giggle intentionally failed to reinstate Ms. Tickle's access to the app, but she was still denied access to the app because she is a trans woman." Sal Grover, CEO of Giggle and host of transgender-obsessed YouTube channel Turf TV, has previously indicated that she wishes to appeal the decision to the federal court and then to the High Court of Australia. Meanwhile, Ms. Tickle is to be paid $10,000 dues in compensation in addition to court costs. Background audio is a bit high. We can fix that. Live production, folks. Drop it down to 3/4 of that level. Hopefully that will, yay! Hopefully that will do the job. Yes, and that's gonna go in the final copy because all I'm cutting off is the pre-intro and the post-outro. So yeah, members get to play, get to participate. It's a good time. Next up, I need to switch my windows. Here we go. Next up, another Turf app fails. In addition to the giggliness, a trans man went undercover on a gender-critical dating and community app and found that it has fewer than 100 members. From Pink News. Writing in the Washington Blade, Henry Carnell detailed how he was able to gain access to La App, an app created by gender-critical campaigner Jenny Watson, who previously claimed there were, quote, no female-only dating apps at the moment, and, quote, lesbians need an app which they can use without being messaged by trans-identifying males. Details about the app caused a storm in June when Watson, who has previously spoken about launching the female-only private members club, said it would use facial recognition technology to scan a prospective user's face on their smartphone, and was supposedly able to detect if a woman was cis or trans with 99% accuracy, because that has worked out so very well for other apps like Giggle. Research by Pink News found most top dating apps such as Tinder, OkCupid, Hinge, and Grindr are all trans-inclusive and have zero-tolerance policies when it comes to transphobia on their platforms. After reading the definition of womanhood on La Community, a site dedicated to lesbian and bisexual women, Carnell realized, quote, that I, a trans-masculine person, fit the bill for adult human female. He said, quote, "So I checked the box verifying that I was biologically female, snapped a picture of my face, and signed up for the dating app. I didn't shave beforehand, so my testosterone-induced stubble was in the picture. I paid and was refunded the $12.75 to verify my identity, and I was ushered into the community, which was notably silent. The only content was mainly from Watson. Posts included telling members the proper dating app portion of the dating app was on its way, on an invite-only basis, and asking if anyone wanted to join a Zoom meetup because, quote, within the quote, our recent event had only 6 attendees. And another user occasionally posted sporadic lesbian-themed memes. In June, when the details of La App came out, Watson told the Daily Mail the technology analyzed facial features such as bone structure and the positioning of a person's eyes, eyebrows, and nose, and was able to detect if someone was holding up an image of a woman to the camera by noticing physical movements, blinking, and heat emissions. So, the thing about that, these cameras on our smartphones, they're pretty great. They've come a long way in the last few years, but they can't do that. It's not. You can have the best software in the world that can analyze that kind of information, but they're not night vision. That would be cool if they were, but they don't have that capability. And if they don't have that capability to gather the heat emission data, then you can't analyze the heat emission data, which, I don't know, maybe it kind of indicates that Watson doesn't know what the hell she's talking about, but details. She said, quote, "Anytime I've joined a lesbian dating app or any other dating app myself, I get banned. To avoid trans-identified males, I will always write a little blurb, nothing disrespectful, saying my preference is for women, biological women. Please respect my boundaries." And every time I do that, I get banned. Weird, right? In response to news of La App's creation, the chief executive and founder of queer dating app Her, Robin Exton, previously told Pink News she believed it was largely opportunistic and based on an interest that people have because of online discourse around trans issues. She felt a real sadness the app was being promoted during Pride Month. She said, quote, "This is a month where we're supposed to talk about rights, equality, and equal access for our whole community. And this is the time when you choose to build a platform that you intentionally discriminate against part of our community. It's disappointing to publish it now." Her, which boasts more than 15 million members, has been supportive of its transgender users since it launched, facing vitriol last year for welcoming trans and non-binary people, despite that not being something new. The abuse and pile-on the company faced from anti-trans bigots led to the official Her account on Twitter being suspended and gender-critical male activists to create accounts in a bid to catch out trans women, using it to find love and connections, only to end up exposing each other instead. Her sent a push notification to all members telling transphobes to delete the app from their phones if they had a problem with inclusion. And once again, Her has a consistent user base of 15 million members, whereas the transphobic La app has about 100. Oops. But hey, such is life. Let's see. Andrew says, "I like it though. What is it? I've heard of this before." If you mean the background music, I'm not sure what specifically you're in reference to, but this is called Subway Dreams by Dan Hennig. we have to use official YouTube approved music so we don't get copyright strikes, and that's a YouTube approved music. I kind of like it because of the low key background sound. It's loopable. It's nice. I hope you enjoy too. Okay, next up is, I'm switching all the buttons here. We gotta switch all the buttons. Colorado proposes a trans Bill of Rights. From Denver 9 News, the NBC affiliate, the bill aims to bring resources and protections to the trans community, as Kelly Loving, one of the 5 killed inside Club Q in November 2022, advocated for. With the help of lawmakers, one group is hoping to present a transgender Bill of Rights in the next regular session. They're calling it the Kelly Loving Transgender Bill of Rights. One organizer said, quote, "It's so hard when you lose someone to such a horrific event because you have such a beautiful person. But half the time you talk about them, you talk about how they died and not how they lived." Bread and Roses, the organization that Loving worked with, plans to partner with 2 lawmakers to introduce the bill, which would bring more resources and protections to the trans community. Those were some of the things that Loving advocated for. When I first met Kelly Loving's sister, Tiffany, she shared that her sister was someone that had a big passion for making sure that trans people could live the lives they wanted. So helping people transition, learning how to put on makeup, where to work, how to live, and how to be safe, Williams explained. "I think it's important we remember and honor trans people as they live, honoring all the things they did and were to a community. Right now, those with Bread and Roses are distributing surveys within the trans community across the state to identify the big issues that the people are facing." Williams explained, quote, "You know, sitting here in Cheeseman Park, a picture of what is to be trans here is very different than it is on the western slope. The further away you get from the urban core, the more issues people face in terms of access, safety, mobility, and opportunity." He said the reason why they announced aspirations for the bill so early is because they want feedback from the trans community. While they wait for the results of the survey, they are meeting with experts in areas like housing and healthcare to make sure whatever they decide to propose is actually feasible. She said, quote, "My hope is that this is history making. It actually changes the dynamics for trans people and our everyday lives." So if anyone watching in the Denver area is interested in accessing the survey, send an email to breadandroseslaw@riseup.net to request one. Next up, Japan okays a gender change without surgery. A Japanese high court has approved a legal gender change for a transgender woman without requiring gender-affirming surgery, a move that LGBTQ groups on Thursday called a mixed victory. According to current law, transgender people in Japan who want to change their gender on official documents must be diagnosed with gender dysphoria and undergo sex reassignment surgery. On Wednesday, the Hiroshima High Court ruled that this requirement is possibly unconstitutional, marking a shift in how gender issues are addressed in Japan. The claimant, a woman in her late 40s from Western Japan, was assigned male at birth. Her request to change her gender on official documents was previously denied by lower courts. She argued through her lawyers that the surgery requirement imposes significant economic and physical burdens and thus violates the Constitution's protection of equal rights. In October of last year, the Supreme Court declared the sterilization requirement unconstitutional and sent the case back to the High Court, instructing it to reconsider if the claimant could avoid the surgery, an issue that it had not addressed earlier. The High Court noted that hormonal therapy had sufficiently feminized the claimant's body, including her genitalia, without surgery. This decision now allows her gender in official records to match her identity. One of the lawyers said that the claimant cried with relief when he informed her of the ruling over the phone. The Japan Alliance for LGBT Legislation stated that the Hiroshima ruling is progress as it could allow transgender women to change their legal gender without surgery. However, they noted the ruling does not include those who cannot take hormones and pledged to continue fighting against discrimination on every front. This decision comes at a time of increased awareness of LGBTQ issues in Japan. The ruling that permits the claimant's legal gender change without surgery could be particularly beneficial for transgender women, whose gender-affirming care often faces more controversy. However, unlike the Supreme Court's ruling, the High Court's decision is not legally binding. Next up, similarly, along the same track, another Asian nation, Nepal, grants legal recognition to a trans woman. Nepal's Supreme Court has ruled that Rukshana Kapali, a transgender woman, should be legally recognized as a woman on all official documents without medical proof required. This judgment is the latest in a string of progressive rulings on sexual orientation and gender identity, helping Nepal stand out globally as a leader in LGBT rights. In 2007, the Supreme Court ordered authorities to start issuing documents with gender markers like other or third gender, based purely on how people identify themselves. But despite the ruling, a lack of a clear national policy has caused serious headaches. Transgender people who want to change their gender markers to female or male often have to go through the painful and expensive process of surgery, and they have to do it abroad because Nepal does not have the domestic facilities for gender affirmation surgery. Followed by invasive medical checks at home. Even those aiming for the other marker face unnecessary and humiliating medical scrutiny. The principles, crafted in 2006 by a group of experts, including Nepal's own LGBT rights advocate, underline that the self-defined sexual orientation and gender identity are key to a person's sense of self, of autonomy, and dignity. These principles state that any changes to one's body should be a personal choice, not a requirement. They were the backbone of the Supreme Court's 2007 decision and are central to Kapali's recent court victory. Kapali, a trans woman and a law student, has been tirelessly fighting for transgender rights in Nepal. Since 2021, she's taken the government to court over 50 times, pushing for legal recognition of her gender identity. While this latest ruling is a big win, it unfortunately applies only to her, meaning others in similar situations still have to go through the legal system to be recognized according to their gender identity. Nepal still needs a nationwide policy. The Nepalese government can make things easier for everyone by issuing a directive allowing people to self-identify their gender on official documents without needing to jump through medical or legal hoops. It is a simple step that could make a world of difference for the transgender community in Nepal. However, the fact that this case was successful is progress. It's precedent that other people can cite, and it could be a guideline for future policy. So, yeah, it's good news. Hello, everyone else. I see a Mage, I see a Ryan. Good to see you, folks. Hello. And Andrew. Yeah. We're doing some news up in here. We're doing it live this time, folks. Absolutely. That's one of the perks of being a member, is you get the inside coverage on our new production method. And speaking of productions, hey, I'm a professional or something. Our next story, Simon Cowell opens boy bands to trans mans. I know, but we work with what we've got. Simon Cowell is expanding his search for the next big boy band by opening applications to transgender men, according to reports. The 64-year-old music mogul and Britain's Got Talent judge has been on the lookout for exceptional performers to create a band that can achieve the success of One Direction. While Simon has previously remarked that no boy band has matched One Direction's success, he remains hopeful that his new venture will uncover fresh talent. Despite his efforts, the project is already facing challenges, with reports indicating that only 40 people attended his audition in Liverpool. However, Simon seems to be taking a new approach, placing an ad on the showbiz job site Star Now to attract more applicants. A source has expressed, quote, Simon knows he has to change with the times and loves being a trailblazer. He thinks this could be a game changer and shows he understands how progressive the industry is. He anticipated a significant turnout for his auditions in the past week, but the public was surprised when only a few hopefuls showed up in Liverpool. One observer expressed that people started arriving around 9 a.m. on Saturday, but the queue was less than 40 people. It was the same on Sunday. The number of railings put up suggested an expectation of hundreds of people to show up for the audition, but the actual numbers were a little disappointing. However, other auditions have reportedly been more popular, and there are plans for more audition days in London and Dublin in the upcoming weeks. These scenes are set to be featured in a Netflix documentary called The Midas Touch. This news comes after the father of one and talent judge criticized social media, blaming it for the decline of the music industry. Which is a really weird take, but it is fascinating that it'll be made into a documentary, and auditions are still ongoing. This is news, it's happening now kind of thing. So if you happen to be in the UK, you may have to search around the interwebs a bit to find these auditions, because apparently Simon's putting the ads for them in weird places, but they're out there. You too could be the next trans man on Other Direction, or whatever they call the new band. I have no idea, but I find that it's good that it's being accepted. It's really cool. Ah, yes, as long as Jester isn't here. Yep, as long as we have no Jester, everything should be just fine. And Logan, member for 9 months. Fantastic. Love to see it. Thank you. All right, our next story, I'm sure y'all will just love. We're transing Congress. That's right. We're not just taking the White House. We're not just not going back. We are transing the Congress. From the Iowa Capitol Dispatch. Delaware State Senator Sarah McBride, who in November is expected to become the first openly transgender person elected to Congress, told LGBTQ delegates to the Democratic National Convention on last Wednesday that her candidacy marked a milestone for trans representation. McBride, a candidate for Delaware's at-large U.S. House seat being vacated by U.S. Senate candidate Lisa Blunt Rochester, said she was running not only to, quote, make history with an election, but to make historic change on all the issues that matter. But she also emphasized at an afternoon LGBTQ plus caucus meeting the importance of the example she would set if elected to the seat, considered by election forecasters safely Democratic. Just as Vice President Kamala Harris's election to the presidency would show a young black girl and a young South Asian girl that she can have dreams that reach for the stars, McBride's election would send a similar message to trans people who, after the last couple of years, kind of badly need it. Quote, we can show a young trans person that no matter what extremists say or do, that here in America, we belong, he said. We belong in schools. We belong in our communities. And yes, even in the halls of Congress. She also marveled at how unlikely her candidacy may have been considering the recent past. Quote, if you could have told my 10-year-old self that there'd be a room full of amazing Democrats chanting my chosen name, I never would have believed it, McBride, who is 34, said after taking the stage to a standing ovation. McBride pledged to advance LGBTQ plus rights in Congress, but also to work toward other issues, including making health care and child care more affordable and protecting reproductive rights. Chasten Buttigieg, husband of Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, who became the first openly gay candidate to win most delegates in a presidential nominating contest in the 2020 Iowa Democratic caucuses, echoed McBride in discussing the feelings of belonging for LGBTQ people in the party. He said, quote, "I keep thinking about what it is like walking in the halls of a high school as a closeted teenager. And had I ever passed a room like this that said LGBTQ caucus, how I would have run away, that I would never have had the courage to walk through that door. How remarkable it is today to be surrounded by friends and family, to look at our neighbor and know that not only do we belong here, not only should we take up space here, but we have power here." I think that's pretty remarkable. And frankly, so do we. Let's send some progress to Congress. And our top story today, our grand finale, another trans beauty queen from the Washington Blade. LGBTQ activists in Mauritius, that's a nation in the Indian Ocean off the coast of Africa, for any of you who may have confused it with Mauritania on the west coast of Africa, have applauded Michelle Carla, the first transgender woman to reach the finals of the Miss Universe Mauritius pageant that took place on August 10th. Carla was among the top 15 finalists vying for the ultimate Miss Universe crown. She did not win, but she was in the finals, and that's pretty fucking cool. She said, quote, "Queer visibility has often been weaponized against the LGBTQ community, and the participation of myself in the Miss Universe 1 year after the advancement of transgender rights as a project where trans people have started being positively represented is a powerful message and a symbol of a door being opened by us for us." Hannah Telvave, an LGBTQ activist, said, quote, "It is important that we back Carla up so that she knows that the whole community is behind her and that her participation is courageous in a climate that still encourages online transphobia and online hate speech, as evidenced by the recent debacle in the Olympics." My goodness. Telvave noted the Miss Universe organization has allowed trans women to compete since 2012, but added, quote, "It took a long time for one transgender woman to join Miss Universe Mauritius, and it shows the gap between our administrative and legal systems." However, this is a powerful message of hope, but it also shows us how much work we still have to do when it comes to legal gender recognition so that people can freely express their gender identity and their dreams, Telvave added. Daniel Wong, another LGBTQ activist, said Carla's participation in the beauty pageant is an epitome of the inclusion of LGBTQ people in society. Quote, "This is a true and real example of inclusion that says much about moving into the right direction for the advocacy work for transgender persons to acquire equal civil rights. The participation of Carla is a milestone that values and respects all transgender women wishing to participate in future beauty pageants. Hats off to Miss Universe for the bold and pioneering move of supporting the LGBTQIA+ cause in Mauritius." And we are absolutely behind that. It's fantastic to see more trans women in beauty pageants, because as much as the transphobes say, "You look like a man, you'll never be a woman," we can always tell the truth is trans is beautiful. If you enjoy content like this, make sure to subscribe, support our work by becoming a patron at patreon.com/TheTransPositions and reap heaps of benefits. Our meme of the week was posted by Lizzie Lee. And if you want to join, And if you want to become part of our cinematic universe, join us on Discord. Also, if you have good news concerning trans people that you'd like to see reported on, you can tell us about that on the Discord as well. For the TransPositions, I've been Ember Belrad.
We did, I'm afraid. Nothing. Yeah, well, she would love to come back and with a little bit more structure. But we can talk about it later. She's fine. Don't worry about it. All good. And she also said that hey, Phoebe had to run, but she's going to be back on a future broadcast. She just had to get a few things done. But I've got in sports today, got a couple of stories. Both of them broke over the course of the past couple of days. One has to do with the Paralympics, but we're going to start with a story that came out in bunkered.co.uk, golf news. Ex-Tour pro blast transgender golfer Hailey Davidson. I'm going to go through this story rather quickly, I hope, and we'll see how this goes. Just slide on over. All right. Let's see if we can get things going here. I think I might need to make a few adjustments. Move this thing around a bit. Yeah, shrink her down some so we can get in there. A little bit more. All right. I think we got this going pretty good. So yeah, this is Michael McEwen wrote this story for Bunkered, and let's just dive into it. See what's going on with transgender golfer Hailey Davidson. Hailey Davidson has taken another step towards securing playing rights for the LPGA. And one former cardholder is furious about it. Okay, one former cardholder is furious about it. I guess that means something. Davidson, who made international headlines earlier this year after winning an event on a women's development tour in the U.S., advanced to the next stage of Q School. Q School? Studying Q angles? No, I don't think so. It's some other thing. I'm not familiar with golf, you know. I've got plenty to do in sailing, and golf would just interfere. And plus, I suck at it. Following an impressive showing at Rancho Mirage last weekend, that leaves the Scots-born golfer just 2 stages away from the biggest stage in the women's game. And according to one former player, that's unacceptable. Unfair, wrote Amy Olsen on X, formerly Twitter. These women have worked too hard and too long to have to stand by and watch a man compete for and take their spot. The only fair path forward is policy based on sex, not gender. Olsen, who retired from professional golf earlier this year, was responding to a video of Davidson shared by women's sports advocate Riley Gaines. Exclusive footage of male golfer, this quote, exclusive footage of male golfer Haley Davidson at LPGA qualifying school this week. He is vying, this is Gaines talking, vying for the opportunity to advance the 2025 LPGA Tour. Riley, you're making that $200,000. Yeah, I gotta hand it to you. Your swimming career sucked, but you're making $200,000 a year showing this nonsense. Since winning on the NXXT Golf Tour in January, Davidson has hardly been out of the headlines. Their win drew bitter condemnation from a number of high-profile figures, including Piers Morgan, famous British athlete, newsreader, and former Olympic medalist Sharon Davies, who is playing in the Riley Gaines camp. Kind of actually was a trailblazer in that regard. Whilst Caitlyn Jenner was moved to pen an op-ed directly addressing Davidson, the very same Caitlyn Jenner who herself, when she was making bank on coming out, played in a women's open golf tournament. The backlash prompted the NXXT Golf Tour to change its eligibility rules, requiring that competitors be a, quote, biological female at birth to participate in the circuit. That goes against the current LPGA policy. Until 2010, it explicitly restricted membership to players who were female at birth. However, it removed that following a challenge in court by transgender golfer Lana Lawless. The then 57-year-old successfully argued that the policy was discriminatory. I would refer you to the many, many documents of the history of trans participation in sport and how it started to change in the early in the late 90s, early 2000s. Golf apparently was a bit of a late comer to the game, but there are good reasons for it. And again, you can find some information on that on our previous episodes of the TransPositions, particularly our sports segments. So anyway. However, it removed that during probably the then 57-year-old. Davidson has long maintained that they have no advantage over the competition, and the science is on Davidson's side. Reiterating that stance with a social media post celebrating their Q-School success earlier this week. So Ms. Davidson is proud of her achievements. There is this massive lie out there that I'm out driving everyone, which is just so very far from the truth and reality. In other words, she's doing well, but she's not crushing it. And of course, her her ambition, I am sure, is to crush it every now and again. Have a good day on the links. Clearly, conservative media needs to give these amazing female athletes way more credit, rather than belittling them and their capabilities in an attempt to attack transgender athletes. End of story. So, you know, I like I said, this story broke like 10 hours ago or something like that, maybe yesterday. But let's take a look at what the LPGA's gender policy is at present. LPGA maintains this gender policy, and let's see, I guess I need to reframe this a wee bit. Yeah, there we go. That's probably good enough. LPGA maintains this gender policy to provide transgender athletes an avenue to membership and opportunity to participate in events in an effort to assure fair competition for all members and participants. This policy is a living document and subject at all times to review and modification, including based on scientific or medical developments, not harpies screaming on Twitter. It doesn't say that. That was my editorializing there a wee bit. This policy governs and applies to applicants for membership of the LPGA Tour, Epson Tour, LET, Lettuce, and LPGA professionals and non-members' participation in their respective tournaments. So in other words, they have a policy. The policy has been in place since 2010, apparently. Subject to review and renewal, and this is the latest. This is the latest issuance of it. And here it is. Individuals who have undergone gender reassignment from male to female after puberty are eligible for membership and or participation in tournaments, provided they comply with the eligibility requirements set forth below and provide certain documentation to LPGA. The applicant must provide a written, I'm skipping some stuff, a written declaration in a form satisfactory to LPGA that her gender identity is female. Such declaration cannot be changed for sporting purposes for a minimum of 4 years following the first date in which she participates in a tournament as a transgender athlete. Pardon me. The applicant must have undergone gender reassignment surgery or genital reconstructive surgery, i.e. a gonadectomy, prior to submitting an application for membership or entering the tournament, and the applicant must have undergone for at least 1 year appropriate hormonal therapy and maintain testosterone levels in a verifiable manner sufficient to minimize or negate gender-related advantages in sports competitions as determined by LPGA in consultation with its medical advisors, and demonstrate that she is ready, willing, and able to continue to maintain such levels for so long as she continues to compete in tournaments. I looked and looked and looked and looked to figure out what those levels were. I would be surprised if they were not maintaining a testosterone level under 2.5 nanomoles per liter. That's been the standard towards which sports that do allow for trans women to participate in female competitions. That's been the level at which things have been gravitating. It's been lower and lower and lower and lower over the course of the years. but I would be surprised. So suffice it to say, LPGA has been dealing with this issue, has dealt with the issue successfully, and it has been since roughly 2018 when hostility to trans people, trans women most especially, has been ramped up in social media, in the press, by the Heritage Foundation, by Focus on the Family, by this cluster of organizations that is hostile to transgender people in general and sees sport as the way to move the ball. So, we have one sport that is open. Various divisions of it are saying, oh my God, Caitlyn Jenner said a thing on Twitter. Riley Gaines said another thing on Twitter. And Sharon Davies said another thing on Twitter. So we really have to exclude trans women from the game. It's more than annoying. All right, so there's that story. I want to, I sure want to wish. Let me just bump myself up here again. I sure want to wish Ms. Davidson all the success in the world. She is clearly standing strong in her sport, representing herself first off, and it's unfortunate that her program is being interfered with by people with an agenda that has no bearing on the fairness of the competition or anything else. I mean, it's a drive to minimize the success of trans people in their chosen field, in their chosen walk of life, and as people use, there was a famous book, and I forget who wrote it, but it's called "A Good Walk Spoiled," and it's about golf. Shows how much of a golf fan I am. But there you go. Let's see. The next story, the last story we're going to talk about here is an op-ed that appeared in Metro. Ugla Stefania penned this as an op-ed on the 29th of August, so published today at 10:11 a.m. Let me get that on the screen. There we go. I think we can embiggen this one somewhat. And yeah, make it a wee bit bigger. Got the must read. Yeah, let's do this. So this story is of moment because the Paralympics are going, and this Italian runner qualified for that. A trans athlete qualified for the Paralympics, and then the abuse started. Valentina Petrillo, sprinter, looks to be the subject of transphobic vitriol, explains Ugla. When it comes to the Olympic season, some things are inevitable. World records, memes, new sporting heroes, heartwarming moments, and finding out more about the host nation are now par for the course. But sadly, something else has become as much a part of the Olympics and Paralympics as the 100-meter, talking about trans people taking part. In every major sporting event, I read comments from critics claiming trans participation is, quote, ruining women's sport, while some international sporting associations are banning trans women from elite sport entirely, including in the more niche pursuits like chess. Sadly, I've also found that every time this discourse rears its ugly head, there is one unfortunate athlete who finds themselves the target for abuse. And perhaps that is because that one unfortunate athlete is the only unfortunate athlete who happens to be trans, who happens to be eligible to compete, but whose mere existence is enough to drive people cuckoo. As a trans person, I've watched with alarm as the topic of our inclusion in sport has become a heated conversation in recent years. In every major sporting event, I read comments from critics claiming trans participation is ruining women's sport. Yeah, I already read that. Lost my place. In 2021, New Zealand weightlifter Laurel Hubbard was the subject of most vitriol. Again, 2021 in Japan, she was the only trans. I shouldn't say that because a non-binary person played for the gold medal Canadian football team, soccer team. Laurel was the only medically transitioned trans woman who participated in Tokyo, and she did not even make her qualifying lift. So she did not compete, aside from trying to qualify. Didn't matter. She's ruining the sport by not being able to compete because she wasn't strong enough. This year, it looks to be an Italian trans woman, sprinter Valentina Petrillo, 50, who's set to compete at the Paris Paralympic Games in the T12 200 and 400 meter sprints. Having previously won bronze at the World Paralympic Championships last year in Paris. It cheers me to see that the Paralympics, which is run by the International Paralympic Committee, IPC, which is a separate organization from the International Olympic Committee, IOC, is championing inclusion in this way. Andrew Parsons, IPC president, has said that Valentina is welcome to compete under their policies. But Parsons also called on sport to have a united position on trans athletes, which in my opinion has as much chance of being bad news as good. As we've seen World Athletics, World Sailing, World Aquatics ban trans women entirely. Anyone who's experienced any form of male puberty from the sport, it's going in the wrong direction, and that direction is totally counter to the IOC framework on fairness and inclusion of 2021. And we'll see how it falls out after the Paris Olympics and Paris Olympic Games and Paris Paralympic Games that are going on now. For example, World Athletics, I talked about that. One thing that is clear, Valentina does not deserve the level of vitriol she's received. On social media, again, the sporting governing body is saying, yes, you're welcome to compete. People are pissed on Twitter. The usual anti-trans voices are misgendering Valentina, claiming she has an unfair advantage. By the way, media folks, this is how you write a story. You do not misgender yourself in the coverage of the story. It's actually in, I think, the New Yorker style guide, or maybe the AP style guide too. I don't know. The New York Times, no, like New York Times is the New York Times. Making comments about her age and even speculating that she doesn't have a visual impairment. I mean, my God, one's blind. The treatment of Valentina just proves again that transgender people like me, and me, still face extreme levels of stigma and exclusion from society. I've been lucky, though. You know, I'm getting this in 2 weeks. I'll be running a regatta for 30 Etchells fleets, Etchells sailing boats out on the bay. I can't say I'm universally welcomed, but my status as a trans woman is not something that has come up in this regard, either at the competition level or at the race management level. So it's not the easiest row to hoe, but it's one I'm happy to do because it gives me great joy, and it gives joy to other people just to be able to race. Ironically, it also proves the importance of having someone like Valentina at the Paralympics, because banning trans women from elite sport is only going to add to this sense of exclusion. Perhaps the most frustrating aspect of this is how many people have suddenly got a vested interest in women's sport, and the Paralympics specifically, without ever having done so previously. A transgender participant is apparently enough to turn people into experts on T12 sprinting events. The reaction to Valentina is simply another opportunity to display their prejudice and disdain for trans people. But the reality is very different. To anyone that truly cares about women's sport and women's well-being, there are issues that are a lot more pressing and important than a trans woman competing at the Paralympics. A report in July by UNESCO showed that women's access to sport is still lagging far behind, and have urgently called for their member states to tackle inequalities facing women in sport at all levels. These challenges include gender-based violence, higher dropout rates for girls, and lack of women in leadership roles in sport. And I'm proud to say that my sport, sailing, has done incredible work to change that around. But those who are the loudest about trans inclusion in sport never seem to address these things from what I've seen, which makes me conclude that their outrage really isn't about women's rights and their well-being, but rather about their misguided prejudice towards trans people. Trans inclusion in sport has become yet another vehicle for people to express their prejudice and hatred, and it is incredibly sad to see the impact that it is having on wider society. And deliberately so. Coming from me. In my mind, banning people from participating in line with our gender identity is entirely against the spirit of sport, which is about friendship, solidarity, and fair play. With the Olympics leaving decisions up to individual sporting bodies, those organizations need to acknowledge and take accountability for the impact their actions have, and really take a good hard look at how they've gone against everything sport is supposed to stand for. I hope the Paralympics stand firm on their policy of inclusion, and the Olympics will follow suit. Not only because it is fair, but because it's the right thing to do. And that's what I got. And I want to thank Ember and Bree for bringing these stories to my attention. And I hope I did a reasonably decent job of bringing them to yours. And as always, for Transposition Sports, I remain Stephanie Helms.
if you're an openly trans athlete, you may as well just paint a red and white target on you. Because you're going to have the modern day lynch mob come after you.
How dare you let their kind swim in the same pool with me, letting Leah Thomas defile my cisgender white womanhood.
NCAA forced female swimmers to share a locker room with Thomas, a 6'4", 22-year-old male who was fully intact with male genitalia.
And these people are sick, and I don't say that lightly. The NCAA is a perverted organization. They platformed a biological male who won a national championship and then was allowed in incredibly disturbing detail to be around you and your fellow competitors. Someone should have just took care of it the way we used to take care of things in the 1950s or 60s. But
sounds like Charlie Kirk and Turning Point want to organize a lynching. How you handle things in the 50s and 60s. I'm a black American. I know what that dog whistle sounds like. And I'm a trans American, which means I'm the target now. Riley Gaines knows she's lying. The people that backing her know they're lying. But they believe, cisgender American, that you don't know they're lying. And they believe you'll buy their dehumanization campaign. So, cisgender American, are you going to buy the lie?